Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am NV Deremer, and this is North Yellowstone. Just yesterday, we released our South Yellowstone tour through, as you can see, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Today, we are going north, and we're checking out northern Yellowstone. I'm going to share some tips along the way, some photos that we just started doing with the last one, some of our photos from our fine art adventures, and hopefully just give you guys a feel for the park from the air as best as Flight Simulator 2020 can do. And that is kind of what life is right now, given the current conditions with COVID and all of that. So we hope you enjoy. Stick around, and we are right now at this moment flying over the Yellowstone River. And something unique about the river, like very few rivers in the northern hemisphere, it flows. I'm flying. It's flowing predominantly north, and that is unique, but not completely unique. Actually, we live here in Jacksonville, Florida, and the St. Johns River flows alongside us here, actually right through our city, and it also flows north. Also, the Nile River flows north. So those are just some notable rivers that fly north. So we're headed north along the Yellowstone River, and our first spot is going to be Yellowstone Falls, Upper Falls, and then we'll see Lower Falls. Lower Falls is the more famous of the two. Actually, as I think about it, I'm not certain I've ever seen the Upper Falls, so this will be new for me. I'm a little curious to see how Flight Simulator renders all this out, but boy, just flying along the river, it's beautiful. You can see even a little bit of traffic on the road there, which is probably pretty realistic, unless there happened to be a bison or a bear sighting, and then, well, bison not as much, but especially bear or a wolf, then you would have a long line of cars backed up trying to get a glimpse. And of course, the rangers want us all to keep moving, but folks find that really difficult when you see something like that. It's something you certainly don't see every day when you're from a place like Jacksonville, Florida, for example. But anyway, we're continuing to fly northwest, headed up the river. And I'm probably going to fast forward here a little bit because, again, we're talking about big distances, and even in a plane going 120 knots, it takes a little while to get there. So we're going to keep making our way up, and we'll rejoin you in just a bit. All right, and here we are. We are now in Yellowstone Canyon, and you can see why the park is named Yellowstone. Even though they're a little white here, the canyon is quite yellow to the naked eye. We're going to climb up. Give it a little more gas there. We're going to turn around here a little bit so that we can get a front view of the falls. See what they look like, hopefully without crashing into trees. So here we go. Let's see what they look like. So this little spot where you see all these trees is actually a place you can hike down to. It provides you a beautiful view of the falls, though oddly enough it doesn't appear that way from that angle. Oh, I was wrong. It's actually this set of trees here. So this is Yellowstone Falls. It's a little underwhelming. If I'm honest, this is Lower Falls here. A little underwhelming compared to the reality. A lot underwhelming, if I'm honest, compared to the reality. And I'm going to pass over here. And we'll head right, and that is Upper Falls. That actually looks a little better. Granted, I've never seen Upper Falls, so I'm not 100% sure on what it should look like. That's the bridge, loop road there, where you have the overlook of Upper Falls. And we're going to do one more pass through Lower Falls here. Trying to keep the plane in the air, not in a tree. Right, here we go, a little bit of rudder. And now we're going over the precipice of the falls. So these falls, they're absolutely beautiful. And I think it's about 2.5 hours after sunrise, especially during the summer months, you can get this rainbow effect. We tried to capture it on multiple occasions, but the clouds weren't quite participating for that, unfortunately. But we've been told, and I've seen pictures, evidence that you can get photos of this beautiful rainbow effect as the sun hits the falls and all the mist that comes off of just a giant amount of water coming down over that precipice. You can also hike down to the precipice right there. Doesn't look it from here, but it's about a 600-foot vertical height difference between the bottom and the top there. And so it's a hike. It's a little strenuous. We didn't realize how much at the time, but it is a stunning view. I'll put a few images up of that. And yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful falls. One of the best, certainly in the country. Niagara maybe is one of its rivals, and there are a few others. But yeah, it's a stunning place, and it added to that the fact that it's all in a natural environment. It's not surrounded by skyscrapers and stuff like Niagara is. So it's just pretty. And then of course you have this gorgeous Yellowstone Canyon made of yellow stone. So presumably sulfur, I would assume, is a high concentration of sulfur in the hills. Which I think, if I remember correctly, sulfur and uranium tend to group together, so maybe slightly radioactive too. Not 100% sure. Alright, so we are now headed northeast along the Yellowstone River. And to our left here is Mount Washburn, which I believe is the highest peak in Yellowstone. And all along here, oh, not this specific part. This specific part actually requires a whole lot of hiking to get to. So I've never seen it. It is gorgeous. It's breathtaking. You know, just as that river cuts straight through these hills, just on its way out to on the Great Lakes. I guess I'm not 100% sure. It's bumpy in the canyon. Noticed Flight Simulator simulates that, I'd assume, pretty well compared to what it's really like. Alright, so we're now headed north, right towards Mount Washburn. And this is one of the ways to get from the north to the south. It's actually the less traveled part of the Loop Road. It's the eastern side of the Loop Road, northeastern side. Typically people would take 89, which is Grand Loop Road, and that's further west. It avoids some of the elevation. So when we were here in, let's see, it was June of 2018, mid-June, this was all covered in snow. The whole area was, and it was gorgeous. It was breathtaking. We had some snowball fights with the kids. They loved that. You can see the road here just cutting up through. There are some switchbacks, but it's not a good amount of switchbacks. So it's not a horribly treacherous feeling road. Certainly not during the day. There were some times where this road was closed, though. During our trips, our first trip in 2015, it was closed. I think actually the whole duration of the time, and then the second trip just for a night. So it wasn't, or a night and a day. So it wasn't bad. But the road right below us, that's the Loop Road, and actually rendered out pretty well. And then there's a dirt road that happened to be closed when we were there, that you can take up to the summit of Washburn. Around this area is also the Petrified Forest. It's off, I think, again to the left there. There's a road that you can drive down, not seeing it here, but that takes you down there. I think it's actually a little further up. And you can see some examples of, really big examples of petrified wood. Some of them still standing, which is pretty neat. And yeah, so that's pretty cool. I need to have my power up quite that high. Alright, so we're going to fast forward again a little bit as we descend into Lamar Valley. So that's our next stop. Alright, I'm back. We're now flying over the Devil's Den area of Yellowstone. It is a place where we've most often seen bears here. Between here and then Tower Junction, which is where the Roosevelt Cabins are, you tend to see quite a bit of bears, and it is pretty breathtaking. Also in this area, so we're now actually right over Tower Junction. No, sorry, we're not quite over Tower Junction yet, I don't believe, because I don't see the crossroad. Now, so this is where we join back up with the Yellowstone River. So we are closer in the Devil's Den area. And you've got a couple beautiful waterfalls here. They're much smaller than Yellowstone's lower falls or even the upper falls. So they probably aren't going to render out at all here, would be my guess. But there are some really pretty fall views. And again, you see that yellow rock that has given Yellowstone its name. And this is just a beautiful drive. Along here we also saw one time wolves. That was the only time we've seen wolves here in the park. It was just a fleeting glimpse, unfortunately, but it was still pretty unique. Alright, so we're going to go in here. Again, fly through. And we'll put up a couple of those waterfall photos so you can see what it looks like. I believe to the left is the one. So yep, right there is one of the falls. Got a neat photo with some rainbow effect with the light hitting it in the late afternoon, if I remember correctly. Actually, I think that I'll have to double check. That may have been morning, actually. Actually, no, I'm certain it's morning. It was morning. But yeah, as you can see, it's just another beautiful piece of the park. Really, almost around every corner there are beautiful views. So here's where, in this whole area, Devil's Den and then up into Tower Junction, is where we've seen both the grizzly bears. Most of our sightings of grizzly bears and most of our sightings of black bears have been in this area. Alright, and now we are heading down into Tower Junction. So this is where Roosevelt Cabins are, or Roosevelt, I've heard it pronounced several ways. Our cabin, let's see if it'll show it, if you look straight down here, was, yeah, one of those in that row there. I think it was, flew almost directly over it, actually. So those are some great cabins. They're nice and central for the northern part of the park, and even for trips to the central and southern parts of the park as well. And of course, this is why it gets its name, Junction. From here, they do all sorts of some unique activities. You can take a stagecoach out and have dinner out on the range, so to speak. Complete with horses. They do allow horseback riding. This is kind of the main hub for horseback riding as well, if you're interested in that. I'm trying to think what else. There's a lot of wildlife here. Bison, deer. I've seen elk in this part, but definitely bison and deer. And so yeah, it's a pretty place. I'll show you a couple photos of our room as well, so you can see that. And now we're going to descend into Lamar Valley. Like I said, this is probably my favorite part of the park. It's just so beautiful, so stunning, and you just how far these vistas go is just it's almost unbelievable. And yeah, so we've right around a little further up here. We had one encounter. Our first trip, we went out at sunrise from Mammoth to see the bison, and we ended up in a bison traffic jam, literally surrounded by bison, again in that same convertible, which certainly gives you that feeling of security with a cloth top surrounding your head and vital organs. But it was an amazing experience, and really, I don't think I ever felt unsafe. We did keep the top up, but we just kept moving gently and waited for them to part and get out of the way, and we went on our merry way, and so did they. And so it was it's a pretty breathtaking experience. It's one that's really cool. And speaking of that, if you want to see wildlife, and if you want to not be surrounded quite as much by crowds, especially in the summer, the time to be out is early in the morning and late in the afternoon towards dusk. That's when you'll see the animals tend to be most active, and that's also when they're less bothered by other humans, and so you can get a better look at them without having to worry about people getting too close and that kind of stuff. And with bison in particular, really bison and bear and any large mammal, you really do want to heed those warnings. You always want to heed the warnings, but especially with large mammals, because just a few weeks ago, a lady was mauled by a bison because she got too close, got in the way, or got in between her and her young, what do you call it, young bison? Whatever you call a young bison, her baby. She wouldn't have it, and she mauled the lady, unfortunately, pretty bad. She did survive, but suffered some serious injuries. And so it's just something, to be aware of. When they say 75 yards, they mean 75 yards. And that way, they don't have to put the animals down either, which is the sad reality of if there is a serious encounter with one of these animals, they are required by law to put them down. And so you're not only endangering yourself, you're actually endangering the life of that animal. So it's just something to keep in mind, especially when you're coming to Lamar Valley, where you are going to see almost certainly some giant herds of buffalo, of bison. Right down here is kind of where you get when you're driving, you get your first wide open panoramic over the river here. And this is the Lamar River, which flows more or less east. And so you get this view down the valley that is just stunning, and this is far from doing it justice, but it's gorgeous. And sometimes you'll even see bison crossing the river in those flats back there. They seem to like the river, especially on warmer days. And in the mountains here, just to our left, just to our right, we've seen grizzly bear there twice, and they are way off in the distance. You're talking easily a mile away or more. And we have some of those real big lenses that help bring them in a little closer. But even still, you're struggling to determine what type of animal that is walking up there. But there are a lot of folks that have sighting scopes, and almost everyone's happy to share. Hey, you want to look through my scope, see it? And our kids got to look through and see the bears close up, and that was neat. I think it was a mom and two cubs, and they're right up. I'll show you. They were right up, right there actually. They're up close to the ridge. There's a little more snow there. I'll see if I can get those pictures up too. There's a little bit more snow up towards the top, but that's the general feel. So this is Lamar Valley. If you can come in mid-September, not only is the park much quieter, a little cooler, can be cold even at times, but autumn is in full effect, and that is a stunning sight to behold. Just with all, I think probably aspens, because it's a lot of yellow. I don't know if they have birch up here, but if they do, birch, aspen, I think they're related. This building does not look familiar. It seems out of place. I don't recall a building being on the right side of the road there, but who knows? There may be one. So then the road continues to wind, and then you start getting these really beautiful views of the mountains. And it wasn't too far up here, actually. I think was one of my last photos of the Mustang that we had. Sorry, I had to call and I had to close that real quick. But yeah, so right along here there is another trail. We hiked that with the kids, and this is bear country. Keep in mind, so you do want to have bear spray. You want to travel in groups of 3 or 4. You want to avoid traveling solo as much as possible. This is the pull-off right here. And you want to not be super silent. You don't want to come up on a bear and surprise them. That tends to not fare well for anyone. So you just want to keep those things in mind. If I remember correctly, the statistic is that groups of 4 or more have never been attacked by a bear in Yellowstone. Maybe 5 or more, but the point is, the more people you have, the less likely there is to be an attack. So actually you can see some of the walkway here. It runs right along the river. It's a pretty walk. There's a parking area, and there's a bridge that doesn't look like it rendered, but that runs across the river, that you can actually cross the river and explore. This is about the furthest east we've gone in Lamar Valley, but they say if you keep going, it's a really, really stunning drive. It has a name, and it takes you to the northeast entrance. I don't remember what the name of it is, so you can find it real quick. Something like Sawtooth Road or something like that. As you can see, it takes you into some pretty stunning country. And it's supposed to be one of the most scenic highways around. So if you have time, and you want to continue on, I'm sure you'll see some wildlife as well, unlike what we have in Flight Simulator. Hopefully that will get fixed. Overall, I would say Flight Simulator 2020, it's about 90% there. You know, when you look at the graphics, when you look at the overall, the big vistas and all of that, you get, like, even the rocks over to our right now, you know, it's beautiful, it's stunning. Where it's missing is some details you would think they'd have. So hopefully, you know, things like the bison coming, maybe some of the bridges fleshed out as they actually appear, will happen as they move on. All right, so I am going to go up here just a little further. Let's see what there is to see. It's both you and I's first time seeing it. Well, maybe not yours, I don't know. My first time seeing it. Just to see what this road's all about. And then I'm going to pull a U-ey, and we're going to head straight to Mammoth with a little bit of fast forwarding. So yeah, I could see, you know, you look at these beautiful mountains, that would be a nice drive. And you're again still in this valley, so you got the river and some pull-offs there, and these beautiful mountains, which I bet are often covered in snow. Actually, even if you look at the satellite imagery here, which is usually taken in summer, there is quite a bit of hints of snow there. Yeah, that's a beautiful valley. Alright, oh, and we are into the sun, turning around, and we're going to fast forward. So I'm going to come back here just real quick and kind of point out the point I was making a little bit earlier. So you can see just the beauty, even in Microsoft Flight Simulator, that it starts being revealed as we get close to dusk. It just becomes a magical time for photos, and that is why they call it golden hour. Everything starts to take on this golden shimmering sheen, especially the water, anything that tends to be reflective, and it makes for just a gorgeous and stunning sight to behold. And so if you would like to do photography or anything out here, those are the times where you get the best shots, both of animals and of nature. It's that magic time, magic hour, as they also like to call it, golden hour, magic hour, and different names. You get the point. Alright, so now I'm going to keep fast forwarding a little bit. Alright, we're now beginning our descent into Mammoth. We'll be there in just a second. This is a pretty breathtaking view. We stayed at Mammoth our first trip. They actually have these beautiful little cabins, and you see pictures all the time with elk that have decided that the greens that line the cabins are a beautiful and comfortable place to hang out for the night, and so they often do that. So this is probably the biggest bridge here in Yellowstone. It's kind of the signal that you're into Mammoth. Kind of doubled up there, which is a little weird, but it's to be expected. So I'm going to slow down just a little bit. On this road in, this is where I have one of my all-time favorite wildlife photos. It's a group of elk led by a big bull elk at close to sunrise. It was off, I think, just on one of those ridges that you can see there off to our right. And it's just this really cool shot, a really long lens I used. Alright, and so here we are. Well, they do have the color, well, they have one of the colors, right? We are flying over Mammoth and shoot down there. I'll try to. Come on. No. A little issue with the controller there. I'll try that again. So those down there were the cabins where we stayed. A lot of this, what you see, is actually a lot of these lines. Some of them, I think, are vehicle lines, but a lot is also just elk. Elk they tend to have very specific paths they like. Alright, so this is Mammoth Lodge, there's a Mammoth Hotel, and then all the cabins there. Let's try that again. There we go. So we stayed at one of those that we just passed. Elk love this central green here. And actually, if you look, this is the road down if you were headed into Montana. Gardner, Montana is just on the other side of the park there. That's actually where the iconic gateway to Yellowstone is. And that is, we'll finish there, I think, probably tonight. Yeah, that kind of gives you a feel for what it looks like. And now I'm going to do something that's really unique and you can't do in real life. I'm going to change the time of day so that it is now that's a little too much morning. This morning is a better time to see much of Mammoth, actually. Look around here. It's going to freeze on me. That's not good. Alright, so there is the hotel. It's a great little, or actually quite large restaurant there. That is great to eat at. They have some good food. They also have kind of like a cafeteria style service, counter service that provides some good reasonable meals. I'm trying to think what else. We did stay once, if I remember correctly, we had one night in 2015, we had one night in the hotel and then one night in the cabin. It's just how it ended up working out because we booked so late. But here's also where the Army Corps was stationed, and you can kind of see that even with these silly renderings. You can kind of see the different design of those buildings. They are clearly early 20th century designs. But enough with that. This is what we're really here to see, right? So this is Mammoth Hot Springs. There's this giant And when I mean giant, I mean several hundred feet tall by probably about 1,000, 1,200 feet wide. And yeah, just really big formation from hot springs. And so you've got these cascading waters that over time have built up just inch by inch and fraction by fraction into this beautiful glistening white formation. If you didn't know better, you would think it was snow, but that's not at all what it is. It's actually I think calcium buildup, if I remember correctly. And so there again, it may look quite sturdy, but it's fragile, and so there are boardwalks everywhere. And I'll share with you guys a bunch of photos over here on the right of this area. There's also this drive that we're now passing over that takes you through some of the other smaller features in this part of the park. And again, it's a beautiful drive. I believe it's one way. It's windy. If you're in a big RV, I don't think you can do it, but anything else you should be fine. And it is a stunner of a view. So now we are going to head out. We're going to head north, and we are going to go to see if that famous arch is rendered out correctly or at all for Yellowstone. And it's interesting, you might think that it would be more logical for the first entry arch to be in the south, but the rail line actually went through this part of Montana, and of course, a big part of promoting the rail line was finding these tourist locations that people could take several weeks and summer in. And so what they did was they would train them in to Gardner, and then they would have these Yellowstone coaches that they would bring people into the hotels. And the hotels were conveniently placed about one day horse's journey or cart journey apart. And so you would start at Mammoth, and then you'd work your way down to Roosevelt, then you'd work your way down to Canyons, then to the lake, then to Old Faithful, and you could do it, of course, in different orders. But yeah, that's what you would do. Okay, so it looks like that is their rendering of the arch, which is not what the arch is. That may just be the entry gate, though, which is a little further back than the arch. So we're gonna spin around. So this is Gardner. Neat, quaint little town. Lots of restaurants you can eat at there. Some hotels if you want to stay outside the park. I would suggest staying inside the park. It's oftentimes more reasonable. Yeah, so there's the actual entry. We're going to pass right over it there, that old entry arch, and as you can see, it's not rendered out. Hopefully soon. We'll see. But yeah, unfortunately, Gardner had a fire in their Main Street area this summer, and it destroyed a few of the buildings. But let's not end as on a downer. Let's talk just about how beautiful Yellowstone is, and put up a few more photos that will just play as I fly back to Mammoth. Of course, we do appreciate if you like and comment on our videos. It helps us out a whole lot. If you could subscribe and share, more points to you. Of course, we hope you all have a wonderful evening. Take care and stay tuned for more like this. We'll talk to you guys later.